Hi, I'm Peyton Long, and this is my English 101 Obstruction 4 presentation on the competitive dance culture. There are a couple different reasons that I became interested in the competitive dance culture. The first being that I was a cheerleader for quite a few years growing up, and cheerleading and dance were always very similar. So, as a cheerleader, I was always very curious about what was different about the competitive dance world than my world. And second was that I took the dance elective throughout high school, so I kind of got a taste of that performing piece of dance, and that also made me curious about competitive dancing. The final reason that I was so intrigued with this culture is because my good friend in high school was a competitive dancer, so I always saw her going to practices and competitions and things, and also observed her having to miss out on a lot of social activities in high school. So that always left me with the question of what is so great about dance that she's willing to give up her social life to devote so many hours to it. Before the 20th century, dance was not considered a sport, but rather just an activity or a theatrical event. The dancing then evolved into ballroom competitions in European countries. It wasn't until 1950 that the first American dance competition organization was formed. Because dance began as an activity rather than a sport, it is a common misconception today that dance is still not a sport. This misconception bothers many dancers as they feel belittled and that their hard work goes unrecognized when society tells them they aren't true athletes. This is something outsiders need to be made aware of. Who makes up the competitive dance world? Well, according to Data USA, 79.8% of competitive dancers are female. It is most common to start dancing at a young age, so in the competitive dance world, there is a much higher percentage of young dancers than there are older dancers. And although a much smaller percentage of 20.2%, there are male dancers out there. As my good friend Brenna once said, dance was the place, people, and environment in which I found myself. Like anything, there are cons to competitive dancing. One of which is that there is little to no social life outside of dance, as it takes up so much time. It's also very demanding on the body. There is a large amount of makeup and hairspray needed for competitions to look the part on stage. It's also extremely expensive between costumes and competitions and paying for your yearly studio dues. It can be very pricey. You're also expected to memorize sometimes up to 12 dances, so it is mentally draining for sure. And there's also a lot of harsh criticism that comes with dance that you have to get from your coaches, your judges, your parents. With that are a lot of pros. Dancers keep coming back to dance, and that's what I wanted to focus on. So, friendships are a huge piece of why dancers keep coming back. They meet people and they don't want to let their teammates down. Opportunity as well. Dancers can progress to better studios and collegiate levels, and that keeps them going. Artistic expression and exercise are also huge pros of competitive dance. Dancers also find huge amounts of character growth because of the demands, high stakes, and judge critiques, which builds them as people. And the lifelong memories is also something that many of the girls that I talked to mentioned when talking about the pros of dance. Through these obstructions, I've learned the many ways that people express themselves artistically. So similar to the mural we observed in Obstruction 1, I learned that dancers actually express themselves artistically through the dances themselves. A common stereotype that many dancers are faced with is that being a dancer causes young girls to grow up too fast. Many argue that the makeup, the done-up hair, the minimal clothing worn for showtime causes dancers to grow up too fast. My friend Brenna argues, as she was a competitive dancer herself. She said, although it is expected for girls to wear makeup for performances, it is not required. I knew plenty of young girls who chose to go natural, and it was more than fine. Getting dolled up, though, is a fun component of dance that the majority of comp girls love. I chose to observe a very commonly used item in the dance community, makeup. It is also a key component of the stereotype. Through my observation of Peyton Toby's makeup bag, who was a competitive dancer last year, I initially noticed the large bag that was completely full. I then noticed there was a lot more color and diversity in the makeup bag than you would find in a normal makeup collection. Second object I chose to observe is a dance costume. This was Brenna Holleran's. So first, it is a very tightly fitted costume to display the movements of the dancers so that the judges can clearly see how they are moving and the dance moves they are doing. There's also a flowy skirt that comes along with it to show movement as the dancer is running, leaping, flipping, whatever. The costume is also made of lace to show the dancer's skin, and usually tights are worn with this as well to make the skin look a lot smoother and to show the dancer's movement. Media has had a huge impact on the competitive dance world. First, through videography. So, videography allowed dance competitions to be viewed all over the world, not just by the people sitting physically in their room during the performance. Studios and judges now had access to each and every dancer's performances, past and present. And secondly, through dance shows. So, shows like Dance Moms, which began in 2011, it really showed a glimpse into the dance world and inspired a lot of young girls to want to become dancers. In my research, I discovered many reasons that outsiders like I should learn about the dance world. First being that as an outsider of the dance community, it is important for us to understand how much goes on behind the scenes of the 2-minute dance performance that we observe. Secondly, dancers aren't being forced to miss out on plans, the social plans that they have to miss out on because of practices. They are choosing to do this in order to better themselves as people and as dancers. Next, a bad performance doesn't mean a bad dancer. Everyone messes up, especially under pressure. And finally, never tell a dancer that she doesn't look like a dancer. There is not a one-size-fits-all for this sport, which is a huge misconception. Through my research, investigation, and interviews, it became clear to me why Brenna continued to say, "I can't, I have dance." She said this because dance was a physical place for her to feel loved, challenged, accepted, and talented. Dance was also a family. Here I included a photo of me and my best friends to just represent the family feel that she found in dance, that I find in my friends.